we propose instead? Well, in order to understand that, we have to look at a little bit of history in images, right? These are the atoms throughout the ages, okay? And we started maybe with Democritus and Leucippus in the days of the Greeks. They probably had the same notion as Dalton, which is just a ball, and that's what they thought atoms were, just a solid ball, a bunch of balls, tiny balls, right? Little grains of sand. That changed around 1904 when Thomson proposed his plum pudding model, which was a positive substrate, and it had all these little negative plums embedded in them. Nagaoka, he came up with the same year with a Saturnian model. He said the electrons are really rings that, like hula hoops, that they just go around the nucleus. Rutherford comes a few years later, and he comes up with his positive center. He said, no, look, there's a nucleus there, and we have all these electrons, beads, because he was thinking not in terms of hula hoops, but in terms of beads running around. And Bohr seconded his notion, and he just said, look, the reason the beads don't fall to the nucleus is because they're stuck in certain energy levels. They can fall from one energy level to another, but they cannot fall to the nucleus or fly away because this energy level, which is just a number, prevents them from physically leaving the atom. Great. And that's what we have even to this day. Broglie comes up with his electron waves, integral waves. And by the time you get to 1926 and thereabouts, you have Schrodinger and Born and all these people. They come up with the cloud model, okay? That it's like a cloud. And what they did was cloud the issue. That's what they did. They said, look, it's like a wave, a cloud, a thingy that's all around the nucleus. And with that, they fixed the problem. And today, nobody uses really the cloud model out there. You ask them, they all illustrate Bohr's model there, the planetary model. But there's always the fine print that says, well, it's really the cloud model. The electron is everywhere, all around. So what are we talking about? If it's all around, it's like God encircling or surrounding the proton in the center. What is that? It's just whatever. And there you see my model, 1998, totally different than theirs. Ours is a physical model. Okay, those are all mathematical models. This is the only one that is a physical model. And what we're saying is the electron shell is really a membrane, okay, made out of threads, and they encapsulate the proton star, which is also made out of threads, single threads. Okay, where do these threads come from? Well, they arrive at our atom from every atom in the universe. They're all connected, and so they have these ropes connecting every atom in the universe. One thread of the rope goes to build the electron shell or membrane, and the other one goes through and builds the proton star. That's our model. Here you see a better picture of that. Okay, two atoms are connected by a single rope. Okay, any two atoms. All the others ropes connect them to other atoms in the universe. So every atom in the universe is connected to all others. Okay, that's what we have. That's the proposal. It's a physical model, and it explains, among others, quantum jump. Here we have two atoms pumping, torsion waves. They're doing their quantum jump. By doing so, they torque the rope, okay, and that's what we call light. The reason light is so fast because it's a torsion wave, not a transverse or a longitudinal wave. Okay, it's a torsion. You could say a 3D torsion wave. You want to say it like that. What's really torquing is the rope. That's the physical entity. We call light the signal we receive at the atom at the other end. That's how we detect it. And that's why light travels as a wave and arrives and departs and arrives as a particle. Because that's why it has these two properties, light. Okay, so that's our model, and that's what we hope replaces quantum mechanics, nonsense, which is just a mathematical theory that cannot be rationalized in physical terms. All atoms in the universe are interconnected, so this is how we imagine the entire universe, all atoms connected to all atoms. And when we talk about atoms, we're talking about hydrogen atoms. That means that if you have a uranium atom that has 92 protons and 200 plus neutrons and also 92 electrons, what we're talking about is just 92 hydrogen atoms. Think of it that way, okay? So for each one of those, you have a connection to other atoms in the universe. Okay, so here when we have the proton versus the neutron, you can see why they're different, why the neutron is a little heavier than the proton, because it's got all these ropes crisscrossing somewhere in space, because all ropes from every atom in the universe are crisscrossing at some point, many points in fact, and wherever they crisscross, there should be what we call a neutron, and the diameter of that is more or less the same as the diameter of a hydrogen atom, which you see on the left there, which is the proton, again, all threads, and the red thread going around, which is the what we call the magnetic thread, just arbitrarily to keep with convention, encapsulates the proton star. Here we have the beta decay, okay, and what it is, how a proton converts to a neutron and vice versa every 15 minutes. This is our proposal. We're saying that the reason neutrons, exist is because there has to be a center where all ropes converge, and there is no atom there. But what happens? The ropes, or one of the threads of the ropes, comes out and forms the atom. Okay? And then when you go in the opposite direction, you have no charge. Why? Because the charge is the pumping of the electron shell on the proton star, the back and forth pumping. Okay? Neutron has no charge. Why? Because there is no electron shell. Okay? It's just a crisscrossing of ropes somewhere in the universe. Okay? And there's got to be tons of those everywhere. Okay, so that's, again, the model for the neutron compared to the proton. And here we have the ultimate hypothesis is that there's a single thread in the entire universe. The object is a single thread, and there's this nothing, which we call space. Space is that which doesn't have shape, whereas an object is that which does. That's why they're antonyms. Object has shape, space does not have shape. That's it. And we have something that has shape floating we're in this nothingness which has no shape. And this thread is going to convert into atoms and the ropes that interconnect them. And here you see what the conversion looks like. In other words, it never converted. The atoms have always been around, but the point here is that if we take all the atoms in the universe, right, and all the ropes that interconnect them, and we were to unwind all of them, we would end up with a single thread, and vice versa. The single thread, you can imagine it as interacting with itself, or really winding around itself, creates all these atoms connected by ropes, and gives us our basic model, which is two atoms bound by one rope. That's the standard model that we have, that we propose for, that replaces, quantum mechanics. It's a physical model, unlike the mathematical one proposed by quantum mechanics. So it's up to you. I mean, here we only present the model. You reach your own conclusions. You do your own study, your own investigation, and reach your own conclusion. That's all we can say. We don't say we proved. We don't say we convinced you. We don't care about that. That's religion. We don't convince in science. In science, we only present so that you understand. Now you understand the theory. If you need more information, hey, we can provide that. But the point here is that you have to reach your own conclusion. And you cannot go to, the mathematicians and say, oh, this fellow says this, and this. Oh, it's got to be wrong, because that's not what we studied at the university. And that's essentially all that you can say. Their model is mathematical. It has nothing to do with physics. It doesn't have anything to do with science. And the reason is they cannot illustrate the proton, let alone an atom or an electron. They cannot justify the behaviors, action at a distance, entanglement. What is that? I pinch the doll and you get hurt over there a mile away. What's the mechanism? And they say it just is so. Yeah, but so they mathematize it. They give you an equation. Yeah, I don't care about your stupid equation. Tell me what the mechanism is. That's physics. The other stuff is math. It's got nothing to do with physics. And so this is the issue. The issue is that all they have is mathematical models, which they cannot illustrate for you They cannot show you the mechanism. They cannot show you the causes. And so they're stuck with just math and excuses. And that is a summary of quantum mechanics in a nutshell.